Thanks for starting your morning with us. 7:41 is your time right now. A financial author is trying to teach children a new way to think and feel about money. Fox's Paige Ellenberger spoke with the author. Take a look.
Hey, so we're talking about some awesome stuff this morning. David Delisle is a money mindfulness expert. He joins us this morning, and you wrote a pretty cool book. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it is about?
Yeah, well, it's a graphic novel, and I wrote it because that's what kids are reading these days. They're reading graphic novels, but there's no graphic novel that teaches kids about money. So I want to make it really fun, really easy, and so the whole book is just an illustrated, comic book essentially for kids, so they can learn about money. So it's been really fun.
Which is amazing. So you mentioned it's comic book style. It's beautifully illustrated. It's easy to digest, not only for kids, but also for adults too.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite things, I encourage adults to read it with their kids and read it slowly. So they'll go like chapter by chapter, and then they could have those conversations with the kids and start talking about it, because adults might learn something as well. I don't want to tell them before they get it, but they might just learn something as well when they're reading the book.
And I'm sure there are so many tips that you have for children, for their parents. What are some of the big ones that they can find in the book?
So in the book, a big thing I start talking about is like money mindfulness and figuring out what I call your awesome stuff. And it's because too often we're so excited about buying something, we think of what we want, not necessarily why we want it and what we have. So this is just a short pause and something parents can start talking with their kids. What is your awesome stuff? What lights you up? What brings you joy?
And I know in the book you kind of get into the difference between spenders and savers, and maybe some shame that goes along with that. Can you kind of break down that conversation that you have in the book?
Yeah, so what I've been finding, and I talk a little bit about it in the book, but really I just talk about the habits of saving.
Okay.
But what I've been noticing is, especially my teenage boy, he's a spender, and there's so much shame around it, because we tell people savers are good, spenders are bad. So if you're a spender, you start feeling bad about everything you do. And rather than doing that, I'd rather work with spenders and build those habits. So the same thing as I tell my son, we save first, what's left over you can spend. It's fine, don't feel any guilt around it. And the more we start eliminating shame around money, the better we all will be in terms of stress around money and having these conversations. And
absolutely. And you mentioned you have a teenage boy. What age did you start teaching him, and what age can parents start teaching their kids about financial literacy?
Yeah, so that's the thing. We should really be teaching them as young as we can. We think they need to be older. As soon as your kids are old enough to ask you to buy something, they're really old enough to start learning about money. And that's where, when my boys were young and they still didn't understand currency and bills and coins, I put things in terms of chocolate bars and Lego, because that's what they loved. Yeah, and they love that, so they got that. So if they wanted something, I'd say, oh, that teddy bear will cost 10 chocolate bars. That bike will cost 3 Lego sets. And those kids could even then start deciding, oh, do I really want this? Or, oh, I didn't realize this little thing I just want on a whim is that expensive, in their mind. So they start learning budgeting, comparison, making decisions, autonomy, all these things. Even when they're young, like 2 or 3, those conversations can be had.
Yeah, and you're also talking about freedom too. I loved one of the examples in the book about summer vacation, right? Maybe going into a gift shop. Very quickly, can you talk to me about financial freedom and giving your child that option? Yeah,
so a lot of times people think of money in terms of what it can buy. I like to think about it in terms of what it can earn. So that saving is something if you never touch those savings and let those savings earn and invest for you, you can spend that. And then with the summer vacations, giving them the money that you thought you planned to spend on them anyway, let them make their own decisions. And it's so much simpler. They can make those decisions and have control over it.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for joining us. We actually have a website to David's awesome stuff over on our website, fox4news.com.